8 climbers died, others fighting for life. Jon Krakauer witnessed it all on Everest's deadly slopes. Here's the true story that changed him forever. Mount Everest, standing at 29,029 feet, is the world's highest peak and a formidable challenge for even the most experienced climbers. In 1996, journalist Jon Krakauer joined a commercial expedition to climb Everest, unaware that he was about to witness one of the deadliest disasters in the mountain's history. Krakauer, an experienced climber and writer for Outside magazine, was assigned to report on the growing trend of commercial expeditions on Everest. He joined Rob Hall's Adventure Consultants team, one of several groups attempting to summit that season. Hall, a renowned New Zealand guide, had successfully led 39 climbers to the top of Everest between 1990 and 1995. Alongside Hall's team was Scott Fisher's Mountain Madness expedition. Fisher, a charismatic American climber, was trying to establish himself in the Everest guiding business. The two teams, although competitors, often collaborated on the mountain. The commercial nature of these expeditions was evident from the start. Hall charged $65,000 per person, while Fisher's prices were slightly lower. Clients came from various backgrounds, including doctors, lawyers, and even a postal worker named Doug Hansen, who had attempted Everest the previous year but failed to reach the summit. As the teams arrived at base camp in April, they began the arduous process of acclimatization. This involved making several trips up and down the mountain, gradually exposing their bodies to higher altitudes. The first major obstacle was the Khumbu Icefall, a treacherous maze of shifting ice blocks that had already claimed 19 lives over the years. The teams made 3 acclimatization trips, each time climbing about 2,000 feet higher. They reached Camp 1 at 19,500 feet, then Camp 2 at 21,300 feet, and finally Camp 3 at here's the true story that changed him forever. The thin air at these altitudes caused various health issues for the climbers, including persistent coughs, loss of appetite, and difficulty sleeping. As May approached, the teams prepared for their summit push. Hall had set May 10th as their target date, based on historical weather patterns and his previous successes. The plan was to leave Camp 4 at the South Col, 26,000 feet, around midnight and reach the summit by early afternoon, with a strict turnaround time of 2 p.m. to ensure a safe return. On the night of May 9th, the climbers set out from Camp 4. Krakauer's team included guides Hall, Andy Harris, and Mike Groom, along with several clients and Sherpas. Fisher's team, led by Fisher himself, and guides Anatoly Bukriv and Neil Beedelman, followed closely behind. Almost immediately, problems began to arise. There were delays at the fixed ropes, causing a bottleneck of climbers. The Sherpas who were supposed to fix new ropes higher on the mountain were behind schedule, forcing the guides to do this work themselves and further slowing the ascent. Despite these setbacks, Krakauer reached the summit at 1:12 p.m. on May 10th. However, his elation was short-lived. Exhausted and oxygen-deprived, he felt more relief than joy. After spending less than 5 minutes on top, he began his descent, worried about his dwindling oxygen supply. As Krakauer made his way down, he encountered a disturbing scene. Many climbers were still heading up, well past the agreed-upon turnaround time. Hall was still waiting near the summit for his client Doug Hansen, who didn't reach the top until after 4 p.m. Meanwhile, the weather began to deteriorate rapidly. A powerful storm moved in, bringing high winds and heavy snow. Visibility dropped to near zero, and temperatures plummeted. Climbers who had spent hours struggling to reach the summit now found themselves fighting for their lives on the descent. Krakauer, running out of oxygen and disoriented by the storm, barely made it back to Camp 4. He collapsed into his tent, believing that everyone else had also returned safely. It wasn't until the next morning that he learned the horrifying truth. Several climbers were still missing on the mountain. Rob Hall was stranded high on the summit ridge with Doug Hansen, who had collapsed. Andy Harris had disappeared while trying to bring them oxygen. Scott Fisher was incapacitated at the south summit, and several clients from both teams were lost in the storm. Over the next 24 hours, a desperate rescue operation continued. Anatoly Bukriv made several trips out into the blizzard, managing to save several clients. However, many were beyond help. Rob Hall, trapped high on the mountain, made his last radio call to his pregnant wife in New Zealand, saying goodbye before succumbing to the cold. As the storm cleared and the full extent of the tragedy became apparent, Krakauer was devastated. 8 climbers had died on Everest that day, making it the deadliest day in the mountain's history up to that point. The dead included both experienced guides like Hall and Fisher, and clients who had paid tens of thousands of dollars for their chance at the summit. In the aftermath, Krakauer struggled with intense guilt and trauma. He questioned his own actions and decisions, wondering if he could have done more to help his fellow climbers. He was haunted by the memory of Andy Harris, whom he had last seen walking towards Camp 4, believing him to be safe, when in fact Harris had wandered off the route and fallen to his death. Krakauer's experience on Everest left him profoundly changed. He became obsessed with understanding what had gone wrong and why. He interviewed survivors, pored over weather reports, and tried to piece together the events of that fateful day. In an attempt to make sense of the tragedy and to honor those who had died, Krakauer decided to write a book about the expedition. Into Thin Air was published in 1997 and quickly became a bestseller. The book provided a gripping, first-hand account of the disaster and raised serious questions about the commercialization of Everest. Krakauer's account was not without controversy. Some survivors disputed his version of events, leading to heated debates within the climbing community. Anatoly Bukriv, in particular, took issue with Krakauer's criticism of his decision to climb without supplemental oxygen and descend ahead of his clients. The 1996 Everest disaster forced a re-evaluation of high-altitude mountaineering practices. It highlighted the dangers of overcrowding on the mountain, the risks of inexperienced climbers attempting Everest, and the potential conflicts of interest in commercial expeditions. Despite the tragedy, the allure of Everest has only grown stronger in the years since. The number of climbers attempting the summit has increased dramatically, leading to new problems such as long queues near the summit and increased amounts of trash on the mountain. For Krakauer, the experience on Everest was a reminder of the mountain's unforgiving nature. He emphasized that even with the best equipment and most experienced guides, climbing Everest remains an extremely dangerous endeavor. The thin air, unpredictable weather, and extreme altitude create an environment where even small mistakes can have fatal consequences. In the years following the publication of Into Thin Air, Krakauer continued to grapple with his Everest experience. He made corrections and clarifications to his initial account as new information came to light, demonstrating a commitment to accuracy in telling this complex story. Krakauer's account also shed light on the psychological toll of surviving such a traumatic event. He described the survivor's guilt that plagued him, the recurring nightmares, and the difficulty in returning to normal life after witnessing such tragedy. His honest portrayal of these struggles resonated with readers and helped to destigmatize discussions about mental health and adventure sports. The 1996 Everest disaster remains a cautionary tale in the world of mountaineering. It serves as a reminder of the mountain's dangers and the importance of respecting nature's power. The lessons learned from that day have influenced climbing practices, guide training, and safety protocols on Everest and other high peaks around the world. Despite the risks, Everest continues to draw climbers from around the globe. Each year, hundreds of people attempt to reach its summit, driven by personal ambition, the allure of adventure, or the desire to test their limits. While safety measures have improved, the fundamental dangers of extreme altitude, unpredictable weather, and treacherous terrain remain. Krakauer's story, and the broader narrative of the 1996 disaster, continues to fascinate and educate new generations of mountaineers and adventure enthusiasts. It stands as a testament to human endurance and the indomitable spirit of exploration, while also serving as a sobering reminder of the potentially deadly consequences of underestimating nature's power. The events on Everest in May 1996 forever changed the lives of those involved and left an indelible mark on the history of mountaineering. Through Krakauer's vivid account, readers and climbers alike are reminded of the fine line between triumph and tragedy in the world's highest places, and the profound impact that a single day on a mountain can have on the human spirit. And there you have it, Jon Krakauer's Everest Nightmare, where mountaineering went insanely wrong. If you found this story gripping, don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible true adventures. Stay safe out there.